Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint-Germain family. I recently made a video what's going on at FC Barcelona. I've made previous videos what's going on in Madrid and so on. But let's talk about Premier League club. We're set to discuss Liverpool FC in today's video. What's going on with Liverpool FC? Because I haven't been able to watch too much of Liverpool, so it's going to be less talking about how they're playing in the games, even though we can basically get somewhat of a picture from the stats and so on. Liverpool obviously started off the season in a great way, losing the Community Shield. And one thing I don't understand inside of the Premier League fan base is why they're underrating this game. I saw Liverpool fans saying, the curse is gone. I think if you win the Community Shield, you're not going to win the Premier League title, some fugazi stuff. I mean, if I would lost the Community Shield against Crystal Palace, and shout out to Crystal Palace, they've been unbeaten for like 19 games or something, but still losing a Community Shield, first game of the season as Premier League champions, is not a good sight. I watched the Bournemouth game, struggling from Liverpool FC, struggled versus Newcastle, also watched that game, barely did enough in the Arsenal game, again struggled in the Burnley game, scoring a last minute goal versus Atletico Madrid, don't remember Everton, maybe last minute goal versus, that was the Iketika red card, losing to Crystal Palace away, losing to Galatasaray, and losing to Chelsea. 3 defeats in a row for a team that's, not just competing for the Premier League, but competing for the Premier League, for the Carabao, for the FA Cup, and obviously the UEFA Champions League. And this comes after Liverpool having, one of the biggest transfer windows I've seen. I mean, I think the only one that can top this Liverpool... All right, that's not a good picture. Liverpool transfer window. Why is it so hard? All right. Take a look at this picture. Liverpool transfer window. I mean, they've had one of the biggest ones I've seen, apart from, the only club I would be able to put closer to Liverpool is obviously the Madrid 2009 transfer window, I believe. But they spent a lot. They spent a lot of money in the summer transfer window, and it's not being repaid. Kerkez 47, Frimpong 40, Ekitika 90, Verts 125, Isak 150. So they spent so much money, and I predicted them to win the league. Most people predicted them to coming off a league win, extending Van Dijk and Salah. And now, with all of these signings, they're still struggling. Obviously, a lot of the players haven't come in yet, haven't played enough games yet, and so on. But yeah, we're set here to discuss what are the problems for Liverpool FC and how to solve the Liverpool problem. The first person to talk about is Arne Slot, the Liverpool FC manager. I think that's where we should start, because that's where, once again, a lot of critique have been directed towards. Arne Slot, is he good enough? Second season Arne Slot. Last season, it was a weak Premier League. It was a weak Premier League last season. This was not some great Premier League title. We've seen many great Premier League titles, but last season was not the greatest. And we definitely saw that in the UEFA Champions League when Liverpool came up against Paris Saint-Germain. I mean, the levels in that first leg between PSG and Liverpool was absolutely immense, which told, most people, this Liverpool team, yes, they are the best in the Premier League, they are the most consistent, but are they really that good? But after making all of the signings in the summer transfer window, it was quite clear that Liverpool will be potentially winning the Premier League, will be potentially competing, high up for the UEFA Champions League as well. But it just hasn't gone that way. Arne Slot, I don't really know when it comes to the transfers how much he wanted them. Because we've seen at so many different clubs, a manager a club sign certain players, but maybe the manager doesn't really want it. I felt the same at PSG when we signed Messi. Yes, Pochettino called him and was happy with him and everything, but did Pochettino really want the profile of Messi? Did he want another superstar attacker alongside Mbappe and Neymar, just tactically in going into games and winning them? I don't really know. And I don't really know if Arne Slot validated all of the transfers, because he definitely felt it was the higher-ups at Liverpool that wanted to splash that money, that wanted to make all of these signings. So I'm a bit unsure, because when you look at the Liverpool starting 11, the Liverpool 11, as you can see right here, Alisson in goal, Konate, Van Dijk, Frimpong, Kerkez, Gravenberch, Verts, McAllister, Gakpo, Isak, Salah. I mean, it does work, but let's start here. And you know what? Before we go into the 11, this is one thing I want to discuss. Salah, Alisson, and Van Dijk. Because this is, for me, one big problem at Liverpool, which maybe some people are not talking about enough. And that is the squad unity. The squad unity is extremely important. At Madrid, they call it Friendship FC. At Paris Saint-Germain, we call it the Lucho vibe, Barca flick vibe, even though there aren't that many vibes in the flick vibes at the moment. But the squad unity, the cohesion, the morale in the team is extremely important. And you got to think about it. These three players are the most veteran players in this Liverpool squad. Yes, Robertson is there, but he's not seen as anything. He's not starting games in and out and so on. But it's Salah, it's Alisson and Van Dijk. Van Dijk and Salah extended last season as well. And I said it last season, they're potentially playing for a contract. And from looking at the beginning of the season, I definitely think they were playing for a new contract extension. And the contract extension that both of them got was short. So the future of Van Dijk and Salah is not strong at Liverpool. I don't think Van Dijk and Salah are thinking as much about Liverpool as they did last season or in previous seasons. They're probably thinking about the future, where they're going to go after Liverpool, how they're going to retire. And same goes with Alisson. With Mamardashvili brought in 2 seasons ago, Alisson knows his time at Liverpool is not enough. It's not there yet. I mean, he's going to leave soon. And you got to think about it. These players, how much energy and motivation do they really have on winning the Premier League? They won it last year, and they've won it before. How much motivation do they have of winning the Champions League? They already won the Champions League before. Mohamed Salah has been poor this season. Alisson hasn't been good enough, obviously injured now. And Van Dijk, you expect more from him, especially as the captain. I saw him after the Liverpool recent loss to Chelsea talking about Jota's death affecting the team morale. I think the team morale is affected, but I don't think it's the Jota death. I think it's these 3 players thinking about leaving and not having a future at the club. And then it's all the new signings. I mean, Frimpong is a new signing. Wirtz is a new signing. Kerkez is a new signing. Isak is a new signing. Ekitike is a new signing. And even McAllister, Gravenberg, and Gakpo haven't been at Liverpool for an insane amount of time. So I think it's like a squad transition at Liverpool in a season, where you have the veterans on one side that are still starting and being very impactful and having big leader roles in the team. And then you have all the new signings trying to, impress and trying to take their spot in the team and, show their ability and adapt into it. Then obviously the other main factor to discuss is obviously the new signings. Frimpong, for example, has been absolutely poor for Liverpool this season. He's not been good enough. And a lot of that has to do that Frimpong is somewhat of a system player. The best version of Frimpong was seen in Xabi Alonso's system in a 5 at the back, which Liverpool, at least for the moment, are not playing, even though Arne Slot did transition into a 5 at the back in his last game versus Chelsea, at least what Tosin told me. So they're not being able to get the best out of Frimpong. They're playing him as if it was Trent, when they're completely different players. And then you have Kerkez, and in the system where you have a very offensive fullbacks like Frimpong who wants to push up, you're expecting your other fullback to be more defensive. We see that Paris Saint-Germain, Hakimi bombs up, Nuno can bump up occasionally, but he's more defensive, joining the 2 centre-backs, but he's very good defensively. He's very good in 1v1s, which Kerkez isn't. So you already have an imbalance when it comes to the fullbacks. When you look at these two fullbacks, you're looking more at a 5 at the back would suit them. Van Dijk can be more protected as the central centre-back. Konate on the right, very good. And then if Liverpool did sign, what's his name, from Crystal Palace, that centre-back, they could have played him as a left centre-back, and that would have been a really great 5 at the back. Then when you look at the midfield, Wirtz. I want to talk about Wirtz because Wirtz, it's external problems. I don't think Wirtz, a lot of it has to do with Liverpool. I think Wirtz has to do with himself. Being bought in for that much money, having that much pressure on him, and all of the rivals in the Premier League, trolling, talking bad about him all the time has definitely affected Wirtz, and he's not being able to, perform at the level that he wants. Another thing as well is that the Premier League is an GA league. What I mean by that is the games are very tactical and boring and slow. And the only way for a player to be really impactful and definitely show himself to the rest of the world, and you got to think about it, most people that follow football do not watch the football games. They watch the highlights, they watch the clips, and they watch the scores after the game. And Wirtz hasn't been able to be impactful in terms of GA. I think he only has 1 assist as a Liverpool player, which came in the Community Shield game. So Wirtz has immense pressure on him. I definitely think it will only get better. Wirtz, this is not an Eden Hazard. This is not an old player coming in with injuries that this is the best and it's only going to get worse. No, it's definitely the opposite. Wirtz is only going to get better. But I think the team has to be a little bit built more around him, and we'll come to that soon. Then we'll come to the attack. Obviously, Ekitike has started games and so on, but the Gakpo left wing stuff has to stop. Gakpo is not a left winger. Gakpo is a left forward. If you play a 5 at the back, then Gakpo would play better because then Kerkez would be holding the width and Gakpo would be in the inside pocket. That's where you want Gakpo. You do not want him to hold the touchline. Salah, as I've said, when it comes to him, when it comes to Van Dijk and Alisson, it's unfortunate they're only going to get worse. They're getting older. You know, their energy, their motivation is going off. Salah will also be gone for AFCON for a while as well. And then when you come to the attackers, I think Isak and Ekitike are two great signings Liverpool have made. And honestly, the best thing would be to integrate both of them. So we're going to be creating two lineups right here. The first one is for this season. Because yes, because of all the signings that Liverpool have made, maybe you will see the best out of Liverpool and their new signings next season. So in goal this season, you can play Maradashvili. He's a top keeper, has been good whenever he's been called up. We can play Alisson. You play Frimpong as the right wing back. This is where Frimpong wants to be. He wants to be able to push up. Konate takes a spot, and then Frimpong can be either on the outside or the inside. Salah honestly doesn't help Frimpong. Because Salah, first of all, he's not a playmaking winger. He's more of a selfish winger, wants to score, wants to have the ball and so on. And second of all, Frimpong wants this space to run into. So that's why we're not seeing the best out of him. Kerkez should be the left back, obviously. Van Dijk. Oh, I just remembered that dude's name. It's Gui, wherever his name is. Obviously, Loni, the Italian centre-back, got an ACL, so not the best. But I would definitely say moving into a 5 at the back. Liverpool have not been that good defensively. This will improve them defensively and will get the best out of Frimpong and Kerkez. When it comes to the double pivot, you obviously need to have Gravenberch and you need to have McAllister. Those are the two best Liverpool midfielders. And this is where we go interesting. I would start Wirtz as the left winger. Isak, Ekitike, I guess, competition, and then you have Salah on the right wing. Wirtz a bit similar to Neymar, can play as a left winger that inverts and goes inside, and I think this would help the defensiveness of Liverpool. You will get better out of Frimpong and Kerkez. Gravenberch, McAllister as the double pivot. We've seen that before and works. And then you have Salah, Isak, and Wirtz. Wirtz, more playmaking than goal scoring. Isak goal scoring, Salah goal scoring. Then Salah can go a bit more inside. Wirtz can go a bit more inside. Kerkez pushes up and Frimpong pushes up. But then I wanted to look at, this was a really interesting idea. I think I saw it on Twitter. And this is next season when Salah eventually leaves the club. Because yes, I do think this should be his last season at the club. And then you should be playing more of this formation. So you play Kerkez. You play Frimpong. Thing with Konate, I don't know if he's going to stay at Liverpool. You play this basically. And in the DM position, this is really interesting. I don't know about Gravenberch. I think you want to keep him as the box-to-box. But if you get someone that can play a libero role, like Pram Marquinhos for PSG in 2020, I don't really know who. Let's just take him as an example. Let's take Baleba. Because this is basically how PSG play, because PSG play a 4 at the back that transitions into a 5 at the back. And I think Liverpool could do something like this where they have a DM that can drop between the two centre-backs and basically clean up everything in front of them. That's not really what Gravenberch is. He's not that defensiveness. He's more of a box-to-box. So you have Baleba here as the 6, McAllister with this technical ability. You got Wirtz as the 10, Ekitike doing everything on the left, Isak doing everything on the right, and Frimpong and Kerkez can push up even more because you basically have a 4-man midfield with a shield in front of the two centre-backs. So these are the two lineups I think Arne Slot should be tweaking with. If they had more centre-backs, I think he would have gone immediately playing more of a 5 at the back. Because as I said, the best... Arne Slot wants to copy PSG a lot. That was clear from last season. He was propping us a lot after the Champions League and everything. The thing is, though, Kerkez cannot do what Nuno does. And what I mean by that is, he cannot... He's good offensively, but he's very bad defensively compared to Nuno Mendes. Because if you can do that, then Frimpong has a similar role to Ashraf Hakimi, where you can bomb up and push up. So, the problems at Liverpool, to simply explain them, I think they overrated themselves a bit last season. They weren't that good last season. Yes, they won the Premier League, but the Premier League was at an all-time low, probably the worst season since the 16-17 season when Leicester City won the season. So they're coming in a bit arrogantly. Then is the players. All the new players have to adapt, have to become morally good in the team, have to make friends, have to, how to play with their teammates and so on. But then you also have Van Dijk and Alisson and Salah. And honestly, when you look at it, should they have been extended? I know they were very good last season, but sometimes you just have to move on, especially in a league like the Premier League with the intensity and everything. I think they probably should have moved on. They gave them high wages, high contracts. Maybe you just keep Van Dijk. Maybe you move on from Salah. Salah obviously wants to break that Premier League goal scoring record. So I don't know. Liverpool, they are in like a middle situation where it's a half transition. I talked a little bit this about Madrid. Got Xabi Alonso in, should have moved on from Vinny, should have fully transitioned into Xabi Alonso and what he wants to play, but they've done like a half transition. That's why I don't rate Madrid at this rate. PSG, when Lucha came in, it was a full transition. No Neymar, no Verratti, no Messi, no Ramos. All of these players went out, and Luis Enrique brought in completely new players. And yes, it did take time for us to adapt in that first season, but then when he started clicking in the knockout stages, it looked good. And I feel a little bit the same with Liverpool. I think when the knockout stages come calling, when the big games come calling, and there's a long time left. We're in October now. The knockout stages and all of that is going to begin around in February. The most important thing for Liverpool is they've been to stay afloat. They did beat Atletico Madrid. If they didn't get any points in those two Champions League games, it would have looked worse. And I think they're only 1 point off Arsenal in the Premier League, so they can be in much worse situation than what they are in at the moment. As I said, I think that the squad morale with the new players, with the old players already thinking about leaving, is not the best. I think maybe they went in a bit arrogantly into the new season. But honestly, Liverpool is a team that's only going to go look better with time. Arne Slot just has to continue tweaking to get the best. Because as my example to Madrid, sometimes when I look at the Liverpool team, you're looking at a lot of great individuals, but do they really play well together? That's the thing. Like when you look at Paris Saint-Germain, for example, we have so many talented players, but all of them suit together because Luis Enrique bought majority of them. They have to be versatile, technical, play this, do this, that, blah, blah. When it comes to Liverpool, as I've said, I don't really know if Arne Slot wanted all of these players and maybe even wanted the extensions. But yeah, that's been it. It's been a bit more of an outside look into Liverpool rather than a tactical footballistically because I haven't watched enough of Liverpool, but definitely better times will come for Liverpool. I mean, I rate Wirtz extremely highly. I rate Isak extremely highly. Ekitike. I don't know about Kerkez. Didn't watch Bournemouth. And Frimpong, he can be impactful. I wouldn't say he's a top player, but he can be impactful if you trying to get the best out of him. But yeah, despite Liverpool signing so many players, it still feels like maybe some other signings they should have made, like a number 6, a defensive 6, or obviously some more centre-backs. They were really close on getting Gui, which would have been a top signing for them. That's been it from boy PSGINT. Transition for Liverpool. Let's see how long the transition takes. That's been it from boy PSGINT. Hopefully, guys, have enjoyed this video. And as usual, allez Paris.